It's good to be back. Welcome to our visitors again. We're glad you chose to come here today with us. What I want to talk to you about today is something that is really hard for me, and that is
time management.
waiting. Waiting is really hard. It is, hopefully that ticking will stop. That's going to... But even just that short moment that I gave you guys where you had to wait for me to start speaking, it starts to get uncomfortable. Waiting is not something for most of us that comes naturally. That's easy. You put me on the 91 freeway during rush hour, you might see me struggle. Hopefully not sin, but you're going to see me struggle. Penny this week, when we were at the store, she likes to push the cart. She's helpful. And we're getting up to the checkup lines, and she goes, "Which one, Dad?" And I was like, well, there's some math we got to do here. We got to do some calculus. We got to figure out which one's going fastest. You think the smallest one, but if there's someone with, 80 coupons trying to convince the store to pay them to shop there, we're not getting in that line. I don't have time for that. Give me that self-checkout line all day long. Just beep, 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 beep. I'm going to run a clinic. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait. But waiting is especially hard when we're waiting on God. And we ask, why does God take his time? Some of you have been waiting, and some of you have been praying, or know people that have been praying for things and waiting for a long, long time, praying for things like a job, or a better job, or maybe a job that just lets you spend more time with your family, praying to get out of debt, praying for a spouse, or praying to God to help you in your marriage. Just, God, give me a sign. Some of you are praying for hard things like health, both mental and physical, praying, God, I'm hurting, or I know someone I love is hurting, please heal him or them. And God, someone I know is sad, or I am sad, I'm depressed. Help me. Sometimes you have to wait for a long time, and maybe you've asked yourself these questions. Is God even listening? Does God even care about what I'm praying about? Is he even there? If you've ever felt that way, I've got a lesson for you today. And I want you to know that Jesus has also done this, and I want to talk about what God is doing while we're waiting. But before we start, let's say a quick prayer. Dear Father, we ask that as we learn to wait on you, build our faith and strengthen our trust in you, Lord, knowing that you are a good and loving God, your timing is perfect, and you are always good. The church said, amen. We're going to start in John chapter 2. John is a unique gospel compared to the four of them, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John. I kind of hinted at this when I did my boldness sermon. I talked about how John was very willing to kind of, it seemed like, poke fun at Peter, or at the very least call him out. I found it very amusing. One of the things that we're going to find interesting in John today is John mentions time quite often. In fact, he quotes Jesus when Jesus is talking about time more than the other Gospels. And so we're in John 2. We're going to see one of the earliest examples of this. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. Jesus got a plus 12. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." Did you hear my tone there? Did you guys pick up on that? I know this because I have a mother, smother, as we call her, and I also have a wife. And there is a tendency, at least in my experience, where this happens a lot. And I love the humanization here. Tamra will look at me and she'll say, "Hey, the trash is really full." Okay, she's not warning me. She's not telling me so I don't spill a bunch of trash because it's going to overflow. No, what she's doing is giving me a command. It's a statement disguised, or a command disguised as a statement. It's an assignment. It's funny, when I do it back and I go, "Hey, you're looking really pretty," she goes, "The trash is really full." Jesus is being voluntold by his mom, hey, there's a wine problem. What are you going to do about it? So what does Jesus say? Woman, why do you involve me? Jesus replied, my hour has not yet come. This is not the best translation, and most of your Bibles will say woman. I'm just going to tell you this, don't call your mom woman. I had a friend in high school who would be over my house, and he'd be like, oh, I had to wear this shirt twice this week because the woman didn't do laundry, or this was very common. Hey, Mrs. Scott, can I stay at your guys' house for dinner? I don't think the woman started dinner yet, and I'm starving. One time he did that in front of his mom. I happened to be lucky enough to be there. She hit the back of his head so hard that I'm pretty sure he has CTE today. This is not what Jesus is doing here. A better word is maybe madam. It was much more polite than we have in our translations. Jesus is not being rude here. And then I added verse 5, his mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. We don't actually know what caused Jesus to have a change of heart, but his mom told him to do something, and he ended up doing it. But my point is, my hour has not yet come. That had to be hard to say. Jesus was waiting 30 years to start his ministry. 30 years. If I turn on Netflix and my show takes 3 seconds to buffer, I'm going to maybe change it or maybe even go start resetting the router. I'm not waiting for this. He waits 30 years and still my hour has not yet come. And if you believe like I do that Jesus is God incarnate, then he knew what his mission was for a long time and yet still had to wait. And that's kind of like today. We pray to God for these things, and we don't know when our hour is going to be. And anyone who's honest with themselves has probably said, where is God? Or, what is God doing while I'm waiting? I'm down here waiting. What is God doing? And here's what I believe. While you're waiting, God is working. Isaiah 64:4. Since ancient times, no one has heard, no ear has perceived, no eye has seen any God besides you, who acts on behalf of those who wait for him. While you're waiting, God is working on it, whatever it may be. God is working on it. I don't know how many of you, but from what I've met and the stories I've heard, when you meet your wife, the person you end up spending your life with, there always seems to be these perfect stories and alignments where it just lines up just right and happened just right. I know that was true for Tamara and I. I dated Christian girls at this church and other churches and Bible camp, and went across the coast of Florida college and dated Christian girls over there and came back with a trail of broken hearts and went, is it me? Probably. Don't say yes. My wife's back there, she's like, yeah, it was. But I'm praying like, God, what's wrong? I'm trying to find a good Christian woman. Is this the plan? And then I met Tamara, someone who had never been to church, and she will tell you very quickly that if I had asked her out to anything other than a board game night that was hosted by members who go here and attended by people who go here, she would have been telling me no. She would have just turned me down on the spot. Fair. But the point is while I was praying and asking for these things, it wasn't ready yet. The timing wasn't ready yet. Another one of those reasons is maybe you aren't ready yet. Maybe you're not ready. It's you God is working on. We'll say maybe, God, why don't you give me what I want when I want? And I'm not talking like, what's her name? Veruca Salt and Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Like, I want it now, and you fall down the... No, I'm saying when you're praying, God, this is important. This is so important to me. That there's a pressing need here, God. We need this. I need this. Maybe God is telling you, well, what it is you need you can't handle right now. Some of you are asking God for more influence. And that does not mean you're trying to become an influencer. You're trying to become famous on social media, TikTok, whatever, Instagram. What I'm saying is you're trying to get control over your future, over your surroundings, and understand what it is your plan is and guide your life in a certain way. So maybe God's saying, before I grow your influence, I need to grow your character. I don't want your talent and your ambition to take you somewhere where your character cannot keep up. God's saying, I want to mature you before I use you. Church family, that is literally what happened right here. We've been praying for a while for a minister evangelist. I highly doubt last year at this time anyone was like, oh, it's going to be David. I'd never preached a day in my life until last December. God was not ready to use me yet. I didn't even know God was going to use me. But then he did. And he still does. And he's still growing and maturing me even today and maturing us and helping us grow. He may be teaching us right now while we wait to just depend on him. Sometimes God is going to do something in you before he does something through you. What I want to do now is a history lesson. There's no Greek, there's no Hebrew today. We're going to do history. I want to show you that God's timing is perfect in a really cool way. There is a period between the Old Testament and the New Testament, about 400 years. It's called the intertestamental period. And during that time, God is pretty much silent. That had to be incredibly rough on the Jews. They were very accustomed to God talking to them, sometimes in a very powerful, and even just sometimes a harsh manner, but at least he was talking to them. Now they're waiting on the Messiah. And waiting and waiting. Probably fair that they were asking, what is God doing? What is the plan? Well, he was working. He was working on something huge. Let's go over 3 things. There's more. I'm sure there's more things, but I have 3 points that I want to go over real quick. First, during this 400-year period, we have the introduction of the Socratic method. What's the Socratic method, David? Perfect example. That. Asking questions. Previously, it was just kind of, it's called a didactic method, and that is just, here's the information, do it, do as I say, shut up and listen. Well, the Socratic method comes around, and we have an explosion of critical thinking happening. Just growth of minds and ideas. Next, the Old Testament is translated into Greek. About 200 BC, we finally get a new translation. Now we get them all the time. We kind of take this for granted nowadays. You can open up your phone and you can go to 100 different translations. You could read it in Hebrew, Latin, whatever. They finally got it translated into Greek. And that happened because of this. Alexander the Great, he did a thing. For those of you who don't know, he conquered most of the known world. He conquered the largest group of people that had ever been conquered before. And just as a side note, if you ever want to add like the great to the end of your name, just to-do list, conquer most of the known world, and we'll do that for you. We'll go ahead and add the great to the end of your name if you do that. But here's the thing. Because he did that, everyone kind of had a sort of common language to lean on in Greek. And it became more and more popular. At the same time, we have the diaspora. I promise that's the last word I'm going to throw at you today. It means the dispersion. The Jews were being dispersed from the promised land into the rest of the Greek and Roman Empire, because the Greeks and Romans had this really interesting thing where they gave you a consolation prize if you got conquered by them, and they would give you roads. And so we have Jews everywhere. We have Greek being spoken more freely. We have a new way of thinking. And what we end up with is a recipe for the perfect time for the Messiah. I want to look back at those 3 points from the lens of God is working. First, the Socratic method. We're asking questions. So what does God do? God sends and answers. He sends the answer. His name was Jesus Christ of Nazareth. He is the way and the truth. Everyone gets access to a Bible. You don't know who the Messiah is? You don't even know what a Messiah is? Great. We can help you learn about that. We're going to make it easy for you. Christianity is allowed to spread. For the first time in history, the good news can spread throughout the world on these roads and into cities. And what did evangelists do when they first came into a new city when they were preaching? They go see the Jews. They go to the synagogue. Because guess what the Jews were doing while they were in those synagogues? Who were they waiting on? The Messiah. What a perfect starting place for them to just walk in and say, hey, guess what? He came. Let me tell you about him. While they were waiting, God was working. Jesus came not too early, not too late. God sent Jesus at the perfect time, not to come for the healthy, but for the sick. Not for the self-righteous, but for the broken. Not to condemn, but to save. If you're struggling during your waiting, like, I get it. People are saying, praying to God, when our house is going to become affordable again and where I live. I just want to own a home and build a life with my family. Maybe it's, I just want a working car. We talked about those health-related things. God, heal. Heal. A lot of us are praying for our kids to come to Christ, or loved ones to come to Christ, or an even harder prayer, come back to Christ. The waiting is hard. Even the small things is hard. On a personal note, I've been trying to work on this, lose some weight, and I've been working out more, I've been eating better and eating less, and, I've been praying about it. God, I want to get healthier, I want to do these things in my life. And the other day I weighed myself and I didn't lose any weight. I gained a pound. It was super frustrating. Super frustrating. And I'm cutting back on food, and when I'm hungry, I'm praying. And it's interesting. I think maybe God is maybe telling me, hey, you need to be in prayer more. Because I have this really interesting thing happen. When I pray about something, I end up going off on tangents when I'm praying. Praying about, oh, God, help me in how I'm losing weight and let me be more focused and all these things. Oh, and you know what? I want to pray for this brother and this sister and our church family and all these different things. So if you're out there during your week and you're like, man, I feel like I'm being prayed for, I'm probably somewhere hungry. I'm praying for you, church. So then what do you do while you're waiting? What do you do while you're waiting? I'd say don't waste the waiting. The waiting time should not be wasted. Use it to draw closer to God. Amen. What do we call waiters? What's the other name for waiters? Servers. Serve. Love. Pray. Read your Bible. Don't be passive. Be active. Make a passionate pursuit of God while you're waiting. If you feel like you're in a holding pattern right now, if you feel like God is giving you the silent treatment, just remember he's working. Just because he's silent doesn't mean he's absent. I promise you that our good and loving God is not ignoring you and has not forgotten you. Maybe it isn't ready yet. Maybe you aren't ready yet. Or, and we have to say this, maybe God isn't going to do what you're asking. Maybe God is not going to do what you're asking because he's still God, and it's not about our preferences or our wants. It's about his glory. Isaiah 55, 8, 9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. we have to remember he is not here to serve us. We're here to serve him. Jesus lived that. Jesus knew that. It's not yet my time. Father, your will be done. Then when God said, hey, it is time, it wasn't even for Jesus' benefit. Meaning that what he had to do, what he was called to do, was going to be painful, excruciatingly painful. Was going to be lonely and heartbreaking. It wasn't for Jesus' comfort. Back in John chapter 12, verse 23, Jesus replied, the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. He knew his time had come. So what does he say? Oh, goody. This will be fun. I get to suffer. No. Verse 27, now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? No. No. It was for this very reason I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name. You ready? Here's how you respond to the waiting. Father, glorify your name. If God does what you want, when you want, then Father, glorify your name. If God does what you want when he wants, not when you want, well then Father, glorify your name. And if God never does what it is you want, then Father, glorify your name. Amen. We glorify God because he is an all-powerful creator of the universe, and yet he loves us. And always has your best interest at heart. And your best interest is not always going to be what it is you want. He has eternity on the mind. God has eternity on the mind. He's working. He's always working in all things. Everything for the good and for your good. For those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Doesn't say exactly what you want, but it does say it's for your good. So I'm going to trust him. I'm going to trust him. Are you going to trust him? Are you here at Canyon Church, and anyone who watches this feed later, are you going to trust him? Do you believe? Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more, way more, than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. To him be the glory in the church and in Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. Do you believe? Do you trust that he is working? We believe. We believe in him. We believe that he can do all things. He can heal, he can restore, he can cure cancer, he can provide jobs to help you support your families, he can fix broken marriages. He can give us Sawyer back when we thought Sawyer was gone. But even if he doesn't, we still believe. We will still glorify his name. Just because God is silent doesn't mean he's absent. He's working. Please don't waste the waiting. In just a second, Jay's going to get up here, and then Mark will close us out with a prayer. If you've not been baptized, what are you waiting on? What are you waiting for? God's ready to use you. If you're hurting, you're dealing through a lot, going through the waiting, or if you've listened to this sermon and you've just said, oh, you know what? I want to be more active while I'm waiting. I'm tired of being passive. Come talk to us. Talk to any one of the people that's been up here today. We'd love nothing more than to spend some time with you. Please come as we stand and sing.